I think while we wait for everybody else to join, I'm curious, where is everybody dialing in from? So if you can put it in the chat, that would be great. So we have a lot of people from Singapore. Welcome. India as well. Thank you for joining us. Oh, wow, Bali. Welcome, Dubai. Bangkok, welcome. Welcome to Malaysia. Welcome, Mumbai. I love that. Singapore, but mentally in Bali. I think mentally all of us tend to be in a different location. And while we're giving it another minute or so for everybody else to join, I'm curious as to what you anticipate or what your hope is to get out of this session. I love that. Seeing a lot of first-time board directorships. How to get onto a board. You've come to the right place. Insights on becoming an independent board director. 100%. I love that. Getting insights onto a board position now that you're retired. You're exactly in the right place. Thank you, Romana. And that's 26 years. That's valuable experience. That's definitely needed for organizations. I love that. I think we've got a lot of experience in this room, and I am so excited for us to delve into the session. So let us not waste any more time. So before we get started, I just wanted to say a huge thank you for all of you for joining our masterclass session. My name is Leah Panakazu Masia, and I am the Senior Advisor for Africa at WisdomCircle. And just to tell you a little bit about the work that we do at WisdomCircle, we are a global platform that combines seasoned professionals with organizations. So we connect the two. So we've realized that a lot of life happens beyond retirement and beyond the age of 55. So we've created an organization and a platform that is centered around helping individuals find their purpose, continue to contribute, and continue to grow as individuals. And one of the interesting things we've discovered recently is just this. There's a lot of people that are keen on looking at board opportunities, but the big question is always, how do I get into these board opportunities? How do I position myself? And how do I even find out where and who to engage with when it comes to board opportunities? So that's why we're having these conversations. A part of it is about challenging assumptions, and another part is exposing you as our community to the different options that you do have that you may not have been aware of. So we are absolutely delighted today to be able to welcome Mr. Callum Laing. He is the founder of Veblen Director Program. He's also an author, he's also an entrepreneur, and he's also an investor. And the reason I share that is because he brings a wealth of experience and insight into board readiness. And it's going to be an exciting session where we're going to learn how to position ourselves for board positions, but also how to look at for opportunities and how to navigate the evolving landscape that is the non-directorship land. So through these conversations, we aim to help you discover the possibilities, but also give you practical steps in terms of being purposeful on your journey. So Callum, welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for putting this on. I'm really excited to be here. I'm normally based in Singapore, so lovely to see so many Singapore people on the call. I'm in Dubai, and yeah, actually running an event about how to get a board seat here in Dubai tomorrow. So it's great to be able to share this now with your group. So if it's all right, I will share my slides now. But great to see so many people from all over the place and lots of people from India, and great to see so much experience. So let's crack into it. Got about 90 minutes worth of content that I'm going to go through. It's probably not what you've heard before. It's definitely not the sort of traditional approach to how you get a board seat. So feel free to just throw in any questions into the chat. I'll try and get to them as we go through, and there'll be some time at the end as well. We've already done that. So look, wherever you are based, what I'm going to share with you today works. So really, we have people that have used this strategy all over the world. And actually, one of the interesting things I'm going to suggest, which you won't hear many people suggest, is it's weirdly easier to get board seats internationally than it is locally. And I'll explain a little bit about why that is as well. So wherever you're based in the world, hopefully, or you can definitely use what I'm going to share today. I'm going to give lots and lots of case studies. So we've got Cheetah, who is a mother mother of two that applied what I'm going to share today, and she did 4 board seats, then ended up leaving 2 to join 2 more, including a publicly listed company. We got Keith in the middle, who actually watched a webinar like this and reached out to me and said, look, I think I might be too old for this game. I convinced him that he wasn't too old for this game, and he joined 3 boards in Europe. So he's based in Atlanta. So he joined 3 boards in Europe within the first few months. And I'm going to tell you why he turned down $168,000 a year to join another board. And then I'm going to share with you about John, who he was 25 when he followed my advice and managed to get on 2 board seats. So if you are here and you're thinking you have to be at the end of your career, I know most people on this call are senior and have lots of experience, but what I'm going to teach you is how it's really your attitude which has more to do with it than your experience. So one thing you will see from all of the stories that I tell is there's a very, very wide background of people. They might not look what like you consider a typical board member. So they maybe didn't go to the right schools, they didn't have the correct career path, and yet all of them have been able to leverage what they had in order to get board seats. So whether they were executives, whether they were entrepreneurs, whether they were leaders, the one thing that they all have in common, and hopefully you all have as well, is they have ambition. And that really is absolutely critical. So let me know. What I've found is that people tend to either be very ambitious or they tend to be very ambivalent. Hopefully you wouldn't be on this webinar unless you were anything other than ambitious, but let me know in the chat, do you consider yourself an ambitious person? Because ultimately this is a leadership position. It does require work, and that requires some ambition. So let me know in the chat. While you're doing that, another thing to think about, yeah, very much ambition, very good. Another thing to think about is why you're doing this. Why do you want a board seat? So we have people coming to us for a whole host of different reasons. But I want to just so while you're thinking about your own reason, and feel free to share what your main ambition or what your main driver is. But I also want you to think about something bigger than this. So everybody on this call is here because you have your personal ambition. You want to sit on the board of a company. But I want you to think about it from the position of the company's points. So if we have any entrepreneurs in the room, you'll know that building your own business is incredibly difficult. It's very, very hard to be a small business owner. And what you offer is a lifetime of experience and knowledge. And one bit of advice that you can give to a business owner, or one connection that you could make, one introduction that you could make, can completely transform the trajectory of the business. And I've been lucky enough to be running Veblen for 4.5 years now. So we've helped hundreds of board members to sit on, first-time board members to sit on hundreds and hundreds of companies. And the thing that always strikes me is the amount of business owners that write me emails or phone me up to just say that it has been so transformational for them to have experienced board members that have helped them. And nothing else, it's very lonely being an entrepreneur. If they can have you as a trusted confidant that can help them with issues, it's super, super valuable. So I know you're here today because of something that you want, but it's also good to understand that you can also make a huge impact. And look, if you can help a small business to grow, that means that they can serve more clients. They're only successful because they're solving problems for their clients. That means they can hire more people and they can serve more people. So the ripple effect that you can have when you join a board, you might never hear about it, but it's certainly there. So definitely worth thinking about that. So what I'm going to cover is why does a board want me? Are you good enough? And is it worth your time? So those are the key things that I'm going to cover today. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about Veblen Director Program, which is the program that I started, and honestly has helped me to kind of refine these techniques and get to a point where, yeah, I'm very confident that if you apply what I teach you today, you can get your first board seat. So just having a look at the chat, great to see lots of people wanting to make a bigger impact. So that's really, really fantastic because that's good. So I'm going to cover things like an action plan for how you get your first seat, why one of our board members turned down $168,000 a year. I'll give you a script that you can use to get your first one. I'll talk about a 30-day action plan. And then I'll talk about how do we, as Veblen, how are we able to guarantee somebody a board seat? So I'll explain all of that as well. Now, I like to use this. Has everyone played Snakes and Ladders? So maybe you remember playing Snakes and Ladders as a kid, or more likely you remember playing it as a parent. It's such a boring game as a parent, or maybe you're playing it now as a grandparent. It's still a very boring game. But I like to, it's quite a good analogy for thinking about your careers. Lots of people kind of have this idea of we go through our careers and we're sort of rolling the dice and tootling along, and with a bit of luck, we get made a job offer and we get a promotion, and it's like going up one of those ladders. But unfortunately, in all of our careers, there's normally a snake waiting. So maybe we get passed over for a promotion, or maybe private equity takes over our company and we're laid off. And a lot of people kind of have this idea that at the end of their career, they're going to get onto a board seat, and yeah, somebody will tap them on the shoulder and they'll end their career sitting on a portfolio of boards, but they don't really know what that is. And so what I'm going to teach you today is basically a shortcut. It's just to get straight to the board without having to go through too many of the snake bites in the process. Let me know in the chat whether this resonates to you. Does that look like your career path? I'm an entrepreneur, so I feel like I've been bitten by every one of those snakes at one point or another in my career. And great to see we've got a couple of entrepreneurs in the chat as well. So Rochelle, J. Alexi, yeah, lots of people saying they resonate with that message. Okay, cool. So quick background on me. So if you're trying to figure out the accent, I was born in New Zealand. I grew up in the UK. I've lived in Asia for 25 years now. So the New Zealand accent normally only comes out when I'm watching rugby. But I've been an entrepreneur for most of my life. The last 10 years, I've really been focused on the capital markets, and I've taken over 100 companies public. And that was really where I kind of learned about how boardrooms work and how you get in them. Won a few awards, written a few books, including Boardroom Blueprint, which I think you've all been sent. But if you haven't, you will get a copy at some point. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Um, and yeah, it's won a few awards, but basically, this was kind of where I learned a lot of what I do. Now, my core business is still mergers and acquisitions. So this year we will take 8 companies public. So why am I doing this? Well, look, you all know the way these games work. When there's a webinar, hopefully you join the webinar and you get provided a lot of very interesting content, but you know there's always a sales pitch at the end. So the problem with that model is that when I'm on somebody else's webinar, I'm always sitting there thinking, so what are they going to try and sell me at the end? And I end up concentrating on that rather than concentrating on the content. So if it's all right with you, what I want to do is just very quickly, in less than 30 seconds, explain what Veblen is, how much it costs, and then we can move on to the content. And then you don't have to worry about it, and it also means that you don't need to stay till the end if you're not interested in learning more about that. So, is that okay with everyone if I just spend 30 seconds now explaining what Veblen is, and then we can get into the content? Pankaj says yes, Reggie says yes, Presence yes. Okay, all right, good. All right, so look very, very quickly. Veblen Director Program is a program I set up 4.5 years ago. You do not need us to get your first board seat. It's purely if you just want to fast track the process. It's a 3-year program designed to get you to your goal boardroom, and we guarantee that we can get you a board seat within 30 days. The normal price is $9,650. At the end, if you are interested, we do have a special offer for you Wisdom members, since you've been so kind to host me. But like I say, you don't need this. Everything I'm going to share with you, you can do without the Veblen Director Program. It's just there if you want to fast track the process. So there we go. You can now stop worrying about what I'm going to try and sell you at the end, and you can now focus on the content. So hopefully that works for everyone. I wish more of the webinars that I joined would do that. Who's drawing on my screen? That's very rude. Okay, let me tell you, my first experience about boards came when I was a young entrepreneur, and I was a struggling entrepreneur. I wasn't a very good entrepreneur. And I remember thinking it would be really good if I could go and sit on the board of somebody else's company and see how they did things. I thought that would be a fantastic opportunity, and I could learn what real businesses do. Now, the problem was I didn't have the knowledge at that time as a young entrepreneur. In fact, I didn't really know what a board was or what it did. And I certainly didn't have the network. I didn't have anyone I knew that was sitting on boards that could help me to get into those positions. And consequently, I didn't have any opportunities. So let me know in the chat, what do you feel is holding you back? Do you feel like it's a lack of knowledge, or do you feel like it's a lack of network? And I noticed in the introductions that quite a few people had said that they had qualifications, they've got boardroom qualifications, but clearly still, if they're here, it's because they're still looking to get those roles. So we'll touch on that. Network is clearly coming up. Harish is saying in Singapore, it's a lack of opportunity, lack of network, lack of network. All right, network is clearly the big one. So we will definitely get into how you do that. I'm not sure if one of the team knows how to get rid of these lines on my screen. I don't know who put them there, but it's the maybe it's like Banksy graffiti on my screen while I'm going. What is the message saying? Lack of corporate experience, career stuck in junior roles. Okay, I'll explain how you get around that. Seems headhunters are not focused on it. Yeah, and lack of network. Okay, cool. Let's crack into it. Let me just explain to you. Sorry, I just got rid of the chat. I shouldn't have done that. Let me explain to you why boards are as exclusive as they are, because I think it's kind of useful to understand what's happening on the other side. So the first time I really learned this lesson was 10 years ago when I took my first company public, and we put together a business plan and we took it to the investment banks. And the investment banks are the gatekeepers to the stock exchange, and the stock exchange are the gatekeepers to the investors. And so the investment bank looked at our business plan. It was a group of marketing companies. They said, yep, that's fantastic. We love it. That's great. The stock exchange will love it. But we don't like your board. And what we had done is we had built the board of people that we wanted. So it was entrepreneurs like us, successful business people in their own right, all over the world, different industries that we thought could help us to grow and scale. And the investment bank said, no, it's not going to work. You need to have people on your board that have 10 to 20 years board experience. And basically, I remember thinking at the time, well, look, there's not that many people in the world with that much experience. And so what I realized was happening is you've got a relatively small pool of directors that sit on lots and lots of boards, and they don't really have any interest of opening the system up to you and I, because it's very well paid and exclusive is good. Now, to understand it from the board's perspective a bit, boards don't like disruption. So if you think about it from the board's perspective, if you have ever applied for a board seat on LinkedIn or a job board or anything like that, I can almost guarantee that you haven't got the role. So maybe you'll be told you haven't got enough experience or something along those lines, or maybe they just never respond to you. Generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, companies do not hire strangers to sit on the board. It's such an important role. They only want it to go to people that are known, liked, and trusted. It's not like customer service, where if they hire you and you turn out to be terrible, they can fire you the next day. If they hire you and you turn out to be no good as a board member, or worse, you turn out to be disruptive, if they fire you, it makes the entire board look incompetent. And if you're a public company, that can knock tens of millions off the share price. If they decide they don't want to do that, they will just put up with you. The average tenure of a PLC director is 9 years, public listed company director is 9 years. So if you're a pain, that's a long time for them to put up with a pain. And so consequently, they don't hire strangers. There's just no point sending your CV over and over again to these job applications. They will only hire people they know, like, and trust. So our job, and what I'm going to teach you today, is how you become the trusted choice. And so I'm going to show you what we call it, like a Trojan horse, to get in there and build trust. Does that make sense to everyone? Does everyone understand sort of why it's been so exclusive and why it remains so exclusive? Yeah, okay, good. So look, the philosophy that we have is don't apply for a board seat, create one. So there are 330 million businesses, for-profit businesses in the world. Less than 1% of them have an active functioning board. So if you think about it, all of the publicly listed companies in the world have active functioning boards. Most big companies have active functioning boards, but actually the business world is 99% made up of small companies, and most small companies don't yet have boards. And so you can go and chase the top 1%, and everybody that wants a board seat is applying for that top 1%. And as I've just said, they're not going to hire a stranger anyway. Or you can focus on how do I create value for the 99% that don't yet have a board, and create your own experience that way, and get to a point where boards are coming to you because they want you. So that's the approach that we take. So I think it's called somebody called Pradeep that is scribbling on my screen. So if Pradeep could delete what he's scribbling on my screen, that would be great. All right, let's go on. So look, this is the process that we take our members through. So you want to start. So what a lot of people do is they start up here. They try and apply for a role at a great company, the publicly known company, and they just never make any progress. Unfortunately, nothing I can tell you today is going to help you get a board seat with Meta or Apple or one of these guys. But what I can do is help you get an advisory board seat with a small company and then leverage it up. So this is what we take all of our members through. We help them be advisory board positions to start with, where you get knowledge, you get learning, you get a chance to work with other board members. The next step up from that is what we call an apprentice board seat. Now, apprentice board seats, I just mentioned that public companies are very nervous about hiring you, whereas an apprentice doesn't get paid and doesn't get a vote. So it just sits there quietly. You're there to learn. But the approach that we take with our members is you position yourself as an apprentice, and the company's expectation is very low that you're actually going to deliver anything. And then we teach you how to add enormous value. So you spend 6 to 12 months helping companies out with, helping boards out with the stuff that directors don't like doing. Very quickly, you become the most valuable person in the board. And then now they know you, now they like you, now they trust you, and now they want you on the board because they know you add value. So it takes all of the risk away from them. And once you're on there, it's very easy to leverage up to from a small cap to a mid cap, from a mid cap to a large cap, once you understand the game. Now, on the right-hand side, this is what I'm going to go through now, is the 5 components that you need to be working on. Now, this isn't a sequential thing. It's not like you do this once and then you move on. At every level of this journey, you're going to be increasing your connections, your knowledge, your profile, your value, and your leverage. So I'm going to go through that now. Sumant is saying, what about advisory board seats with startups? Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say something a bit controversial here, but the first couple of board seats you get, the company doesn't really matter. It's not about the company. It's about you. It's about you being able to update your profile and say you're serving on the board of XYZ company. It's a chance for you to work with other board members. It's a chance for you to build connections and experience. If those companies aren't great companies, it doesn't matter. You can always remove them from your CV later. They're just stepping stones. And I'll touch on that later. So before I go into that, just a quick case study on a gentleman called Ralph, who is a cafe owner in Atlanta in the US. So he watched a webinar just like this right in the very early days of Veblen. And he wanted to sit on boards in America because that's where he was. And I said, look, would you be open to thinking internationally? And he was. And so he joined a couple of advisory boards. Very quickly, he moved up and became an apprentice to a European franchise publicly listed company. And him and a couple of other people built a wonderful ESG program. Now, ESG is one of those things that directors hate having to do, but everyone has to do it now. So as an apprentice, you can put your hand up and say, I'll do that for you. So they let him do that work. He did that work, did such a good job of it. A company in the US, a sports and entertainment company, saw him, reached out to him and said, hey, look, we're looking for a board member that understands the ESG space. Would you come and help us? And he's now been serving on that sports and entertainment publicly listed company in New York for the last 3 years. So it can all happen very, very quickly. That whole thing happened in 9 months, from his first advisory position to getting a paid publicly listed board seat, but you have to start at the bottom. You can't just go straight to the top. So um, just let me know in the chat. Is this giving you a bit of an idea and some, some sort of new ways to approach this? Let me know. Do you feel like you've learned something so far? Sandy says yes. Rajiv says very good ideas. Okay, great. Said yes. All right, awesome, good. I'm on the right track. Okay, let's go through these 5 components, and I'll explain why I think they're so important. So. Connections is the big one. It really is huge. So when I asked that question earlier, almost all of you put network was your challenge. Now, the average person knows about 200 people, but they don't expand their network. And so they meet the same 200 people over and over again. The chances of one of them suddenly having an amazing board opportunity for you is quite remote. So you need to get very deliberate about your connections. Now, at the beginning of your journey where you are now, you want to be deliberately building relationships with entrepreneurs, with small business owners, with angel investors. That's very different to if you want to get into bigger companies later on in your career. So if you want to get onto the likes of sort of an S&P 500 company, you want to be building relationships with sovereign wealth funds. You want to be building relationships with some of the big PR companies, politicians. Those are the people that move the needle at the top, but they don't move the needle in the small business world. There you want to be talking to small investors, angel, and entrepreneurs. If you there's a book, if you reach out to me, I have a website called callumlaing.com. If you go to that, there is Cal Pally. Stop drawing on my screen. If you go to callumlaing.com, you can download a copy of Progressive Partnerships, which is about how to build networks and connections. So let's move on to the next one. This is one of our members, Susie, who so she says, almost everyone I've met through Veblen has been fascinating. The joy of this network is in having rich, honest conversations with people from entirely different industries. Now, it's not about Veblen. The fact that you are already members of Wisdom, for example, that's a fantastic network with incredible people in there. So just starting to be very deliberate about leveraging your network and understand the value that is in it will make a huge difference for you. Okay, the second piece is knowledge. Now, I noticed that a few people said that they had got director's certificates. Unfortunately, what you've probably discovered is that even with your director's certificate, you're not getting a board seat. The reason that you're not getting a board seat is that nobody in the history of companies that's sitting in a board seat has ever said, you know what we need in this board? We need somebody with a certificate. It just doesn't happen like that. Boards aren't interested in credentials. What they're interested in is how do you solve a problem. So you should never, ever position yourself as a board member. Position yourself as someone that can solve a problem for the company. And the way that you'll deliver that solution is by sitting on the board. Now, that's a very, very important distinction. When if we come from an employee background, we're used to having to do everything ourselves. When you get into the board role, it's not up to you to solve the problem. It's up to you to get the problem solved. But if you're just thinking through the lens of what can you personally deliver, there's a finite amount of problems that you can solve. If you think about what are the people in my network that could help solve this problem, you become super, super valuable. And so a lot of people kind of mix up board seats with consulting. So they'll say, look, I've got 20 years of supply chain management. I'd be great on the board. Business owners don't want consultants on their board. They want people that can think about the strategy. They want people that can help the company to grow. Now, the other problem with, and look, I don't want to beat up on Directors Institute and these qualifications because it can be very interesting and it just doesn't get you a board seat. But what they typically teach is good corporate governance for an S&P 500 company. So it's like the Harvard Business Review of this is what companies should be doing. The problem with that is that that's not what small businesses need. In fact, if you try and apply good corporate governance for an S&P 500 company to a small business, you will kill it. And so actually, you really need to be focused on how do I help this company grow? Now, this is quite a useful thing to understand. If you think, if I explain to you the origin of board seats, so if you think back centuries ago, um, it was normally men that had built a business, and they built up this business. And anyone that's an entrepreneur, a business owner, will know how difficult it is to build a successful business. And then they get to the end of their career, and typically what they would do is they would hand over the running of the business to the eldest son. Now, invariably, the eldest son wasn't the smartest cookie in the jar, and so the business owner is feeling very nervous about handing over their life's work to son. And so what they did was they called up their friends who are other business owners and investors, and they said, "Look, can you sit on the board and just make sure my son doesn't do anything stupid? I don't want my life's work destroyed by one executive decision." And this is where the idea of boards came about. And so this is what the biggest companies in the world focus on: good corporate governance. What they're focused on is, from a shareholder perspective, stopping executives doing anything bad. That's fine, but it's not what small businesses need. Small businesses want to grow. The way that you add value as a board member is helping them grow. So you need to be you've got to kind of have diverse ideas, but you also need to understand holistic business principles, things like capital markets, investor relations. You don't need to be an expert in any of these things. You just need to have the basic language to get that across. Does that all make sense to everyone? Jan is saying my challenge wouldn't be network, but more lacking the confidence to convert them. Yes, I wouldn't think about it in terms of converting. I think it in terms of helping them. So you help connect them. So Avashni, one of our members, says, what the Veblen community offered me was the opportunity to understand the knowledge around getting boards, but also the knowledge that goes into how to be a board member and what that actually means. So I can teach you how to be a board member, but I don't want you to be a bad board member. There's enough bad board members out there already. We want you to be a great board member. And so you need to be thinking about all of those things. Now, those first two things, basic understanding of the knowledge of small businesses and connections, will help get you most of your first few board seats. Profile leadership is about growing you to the point that you're getting inbound opportunities. So if you have had a successful career as an employee so far, you've probably done an amazing job of building your profile internally. So that means that everyone in the company that needs to know you knows you. You know how to CC the right people when you send emails late at night on a Friday to make sure people know that you're doing a good job. That's fine internally, but what happens is externally, nobody has any idea who you are. So to be successful in this board world, you need to build a profile externally. So, and unfortunately, in this, it does mean LinkedIn. Now, I know LinkedIn is a very strange place full of very strange people, but your LinkedIn profile needs to look like a board member. And the reason is that your most likely board seat is still going to come from a personal referral. It's going to be somebody that sat on a board with you saying, hey, you should talk to this company. You would be perfect for them. Now, what happens is people will then Google your name. And the first thing that usually comes up is your LinkedIn profile. If you haven't updated your LinkedIn profile since the last time you looked for a job, it doesn't give a very good impression of you. So you need to be focused on your profile. So this so this is Nam. So Nam is Vietnamese. He is based in Switzerland. And he's an internal auditor. Now, if you've ever met internal auditors, you'll know they're very vivacious and outgoing, and they're really not at all. So Nam is an internal auditor. And I remember he joined the Veblen Director Program. And he said, look, I'm happy to do everything else, but I do not want to build my profile. I just, that idea repulses me. And a lot of us, we see kind of influencers out there saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. And we think, look, I don't want anything to do with that. That's not what this is. On Instagram, you build status by having a nice watch and standing next to a Lambo. On LinkedIn, you build status through sitting on board seats. And so what I taught Nam was, look, it's not about saying, look at me. It's saying, look at how I can help others. So he started writing posts about if you're a young internal auditor, these are the things I wished I'd known 10 years ago. When he started serving on boards, he started writing about this is what I'm learning on the boards. And so very quickly, he was able to build up his profile. And like I says, within 6 months, he had 4 independent board appointments, all because he learned how to position himself. The reason I use Num is that he was the most resistant to doing this. And I know a lot of you will be thinking, oh, look, it's just cringy. But unfortunately, it is an important piece of the game. So look, value delivery is what I talked about. Like we really want you to be a helpful board member. It's good for you. It's good for the company. So that means really focus on how do you help the company grow. So just from something as basic as just being a huge advocate for the companies that you serve on, going out, talking about them, introducing them to people you know, introducing them to new clients, potential investors, all of these things add a ton of value to them. It's not telling them what they can't do, because entrepreneurs became entrepreneurs because they didn't want to be told what they can't do. So if you're sitting on the board telling an entrepreneur, oh, I don't think you should be doing that, you're not going to last very long on the board. You need to be helping that company grow. Sometimes it'll be doing things that you don't always believe in. Now, when it gets bigger, when you've got more stakeholders, then there may be times when you have to have those conversations. But at the beginning of your career, the more you can help a company grow, the more successful you will be. Dr. Namrat is actually an entrepreneur herself, and she says, my value is to bring the focus back to the bigger picture and make sure the team doesn't forget it. Be the guide, not the hero. You pause, you reflect, you see what is the true core issue. You're there to help them as their guide, as an advisor. Now, you will remember that as an executive or as an entrepreneur, it's very easy to get focused on whoever's shouting the loudest on that day, like dealing with whatever's on fire right now. The board can do a very valuable job of just asking you, look, is this the most valuable thing for you to be doing right now? Or could we get back to focusing on your 5-year goals? And so that's what Namrata has positioned her value as. So that's a good one. The final one is leverage. And we have a saying at Veblen, which is, this is not your final board seat. It's just a stepping stone to the next board seat. So our goal is not an advisory board. Our goal is not an apprenticeship. Our goal is not the first position. Our goal is to be a great board member on a great company. But you don't start there. You have to start smaller. So the way I think about leverage is 2 ways. One is your leverage. So how do you leverage your past connections, your past knowledge to help this company grow? And then remember, this is your journey. Not every board you join, that company is going to grow. Growing companies is difficult. So at a certain point, you might say, well, look, I don't think I can take this company any further. So how do I leverage this company to get to the next rung on the ladder? So you should always be thinking about how to leverage up to the next one. Don't worry too much about the first few boards you join. They're stepping stones to the next board. Does that make sense to everyone? Just let me know in the chat if all of that makes sense, those 5 components. Matthias is saying, my early connections at Veblen really helped me to land my first board. I didn't apply. From my conversations with the Veblen members, they endorsed me to join one of the boards. It's more important to have the right conversations with the right people rather than having a nice CV. Look, that is the reality of this business. It is a people business. Your best board seats are going to come from recommendations. It's going to be people that you've served with on boards saying, hey, let me introduce you to the owner of this company. I think you could help them. The more value you add on a board, the more those other board members will invite you to sit on other boards and serve with them. It's not about the CV or the resume. It's really about getting on those first boards and then over-delivering the value. All right. Only one person says they understand what I've been talking about so far. Come on, engage. Let me know. Does it all make sense? Thank you, Aunt. Rajiv says yes. Okay, good. All right. So look, this is the process that we have at the Veblen Director Program. This is the process that I recommend. Aunt says could not find the keyboard. David says, how do you feel about joining boards of non-profits as a start? Great question. So a lot of people, especially out of America, there's been this idea that joining non-profits is a great stepping stone to your board career. Um, what I would say is having non-profit board experience is better than having no experience. However, commercial companies aren't particularly impressed with non-profit experience. They want to see you having experience on commercial board seats. So it's better in most cases, unless you particularly want to, like a lot of our members will sit on at least one non-profit because that's they want to give back. But in terms of helping your career move forward, it's better to be sitting on a smaller, commercially focused board and demonstrating that you understand how to grow a company commercially than it is to sit on a bigger non-profit. Because business owners are more interested in seeing that you understand how to grow a company commercially rather than you understand how to spend money as non-profits do. Go is saying, when you leverage, do you resign from the current board? Won't you be seen as abandoning? Look, I think it's all about positioning. And if you have opportunities, one of the things we encourage all of our members to do is to get your first 3 board seats as quickly as possible. Because then what happens is as you build your profile, companies will start seeing you and they'll see that you're already sitting on multiple boards and they'll reach out and they'll say, hey, look, we have a particular problem. We want to launch in India, for example, and we want somebody with India experience. Would you be interested in joining our board? Now, because you're already sitting on 3 boards, that gives you an opportunity to say, look, potentially I'd be interested. I quite like your company, but I would probably have to resign one of my existing boards. So what does this look commercially to make me want to do that? And then it's very clear to the company that, okay, if they want your services, they need to make it commercially attractive to you. It's harder to negotiate that if you're not sitting on any board. So that's kind of how that works. Um, Alpa's saying, I'm a marketer with no business experience. What chances do I have? You're a marketer, you have business experience. Look, one of the things most companies struggle with is marketing, but also remember, you're not on the board to be a consultant. If they need marketing, they will hire marketers. You're on a board to help them strategically. Um, and I'm going to touch on this later, but your attitude towards wanting to help that company grow is far more important than actually your past experience. So let's get into that. All right, this is the way that you get your first one. And like I said, LinkedIn is the easiest place to do this. So start with a small business owner. By the way, like if you know a small business owner, just go and have a conversation with them. Say, hey, look, what are the challenges that you're facing right now? Um, would you be interested in a board that's helping you to grow? Very informal. I can pull together 4 or 5 really cool people and we can help your company to grow. So here's the kind of the script. Acknowledge the challenges that small businesses have. The nice thing about us entrepreneurs, we're always whinging about the challenges that, that we have. So we're giving you lots and lots of opportunity. Introduce the concept of an advisory board. Now, like I mentioned earlier, most entrepreneurs don't have boards because they think it's going to be expensive and they think you're going to tell them what they can't do and they don't want to be told that. So you introduce the advisory board as, hey, myself and a few other people can help you grow your business. It's not going to cost you anything. So you offer to build it. By default, if you're building it, you're going to be on it. So that's the key there. And strip away all the formality and fear. Now, those people that have gone through the courses and have got the certificates, you'll be wanting to have a very formal board meeting with an agenda point and a secretary and a treasurer and an audit committee and all of that sort of stuff. Small business owners don't care about that. So the way that we position it is just take all the theater away and say, hey, look, it doesn't need to be any more advanced than a few of us getting together once a month, having a coffee, it could be virtually over Zoom, and you just tell us the challenges that you're having and we'll help you to grow your business. So take all the theater out of it, just focus on helping that company. And while you're doing that, you're getting experience, you're getting a chance to work with people you want to work with, and you're getting a chance to update your profile. And what's interesting is when you update your profile, your whole network, your existing network, will suddenly look at you in a completely different light. All right, let's see. Oh, lots of stuff coming in. What opportunities do I have as a soldier? Actually, Rajesh, one of our members was a naval commander who joined Veblen and leveraged it to get onto the board of an Indian publicly listed companies. Soldiers have lots of experience, lots of discipline. It's just about positioning yourself. How could you help a company with the knowledge and the connections that you have? Anne says, how feasible is it to land a role in a vertical outside of the experience? Exact, e.g., 25 years of tech. Can I get a job in the sports industry? Yes, great question. Okay. So, look, this is one of the things that we do, which is counterintuitive, but I'd also encourage you to think about this is when with our Veblen members, the first 2 or 3 board seats they're on are in completely different industries. And there's 2 reasons that we do this. The first reason is that the best advisors actually don't give very much advice. They just ask smart questions. Now, if you are a 25-year tech veteran and I put you on the board of a tech company, you're going to make assumptions about the problems that they've got. Now, those assumptions might be right, but they might be wrong. Whereas if I put you into an industry you know nothing about, you can't rely on your past experience. Therefore, you have to ask smart questions. And that becomes very valuable. And because you can't help, this is the second part, you then look at your network. Who in your network could help this company to solve its problem? If you go straight into an industry that you know, what often happens is the founder will try and exploit you and turn you into an unpaid consultant. Now, we're all nice people. We all want to help. And so it's very easy to turn into an unpaid consultant. We don't want to do that. That's not the purpose of sitting on the board. So actually, yes, that's a great question, and you should be thinking about sitting in companies outside of your industry to start with. Colonel Shashidar says, in your journey, how many military veterans have you seen take up board roles, and what are the chances for someone like me? Yeah, look, lots and lots of them. You've got to, again, a business owner is less interested in your experience and they're more interested in, do you have a desire to help that company grow? Now, if you genuinely want to help that company grow, that's important. So I'll touch on this later, but I'll give you an example. One of the best board members I've ever had was 25 years old, John, who I mentioned at the beginning. Now, 25-year-olds, like 25, they've barely learned to tie their shoelaces. Why would that be the best board member I've had? Because he genuinely wanted to help the business. He went out of his way. He worked really hard. He made loads and loads of introductions. He wanted to help grow the business. Whereas I've had people join boards that I've previously worked on that have had 40, 50 years experience, corporate experience, but they didn't care. They didn't have that energy, that desire. It was just ticking a box to them. I would much rather have somebody with less experience, but a genuine desire to help than someone with lots of experience, but doesn't have that. Imta says, please let me know the best way to get in touch with you later. Probably just stick my name into LinkedIn and reach out. Nisha says, this is great input. Great. Thanks. Sandy says, I was advised to write some academies. I'm in education. I'll work on my reading and asked to be a board member. Yeah, look, again, it's the same sort of thing as non-profit. It's better than no experience, but commercial experience will always be better. Christmas says, what is the small owner is an acquaintance? Feels a bit awkward for both of us to approach each other and raise the topic. Look, if it feels awkward, just go and have a conversation with a stranger. But generally, if you're coming at it from the position of, hey, I want to help your business grow, most small business owners are so desperate for help that they'll bite your hand off. Samdeep says, what is the remuneration model for board members? Is it per sitting, meeting, monthly retainer, blah, blah, blah? Okay. I'm going to touch on this later. A lot of people destroy their board careers by focusing on trying to get money too early in the process. The first few board seats, don't worry about money. You're doing it for experience. You're doing it for connections. You have to figure out how you add value as a board member. If you've never served on a board, you don't know if you can add value as a board member. There are actually lots and lots of different ways that you can generate revenue from boards. So the example that I give, so a lot of people say, I'd never join a board unless I was getting a salary. Salary is the least interesting way to make money. I get offered lots and lots of board seats just because of my profile. I push all of those board seat opportunities into the Veblen Director Program. But there are certain companies that I would pay to sit on their board. So, for example, right now, the hottest company on the planet is SpaceX. I would pay $1 million a year to sit in the board of SpaceX. Now, why would I pay $1 million a year to work for somebody else? Because my core business is mergers and acquisitions and taking companies public. Now, if I'm sitting on the board of SpaceX, there is nobody on the planet that I want to get hold of, no investment committee that would turn down my phone call, no media representative that would turn down my phone call, no politician that would turn down my phone call. So there are lots of different ways to leverage a board seat other than just the salary. And that's kind of more advanced topic, but don't kill your career too early by focusing on salary. Soon said, I'm a manufacturing manager with around 35 years of experience. Yeah, loads of chance. No problem at all. Thank you. Confirm my thinking. Yeah, you mentioned about the desire to help on multiple occasions. That needs to be discovered through discussions and actions. How does the window of opportunity get opened? The window of opportunity gets opened by exactly this. Go and talk to business owners, small business owners. Never never say to a business owner, hey, I want to be a board member. The reality is no company wants another board member. What they want is a solution to a problem. So you have to position yourself as a solution to a problem, and the way you can deliver that is by sitting on a board. If they believe that you can help them grow, then giving you a board seat is definitely something they're open to. Yes, but I'd have to work with Elon. Yeah, fair point. In this informal first arrangement, how do I represent this in my marketing, like on LinkedIn? Don't you have to have the company's permission to announce any association with them? Yeah, absolutely. But look, those companies get to shout about you as well. So for a small company to say, hey, I've now got a board of advisors, that makes them look more credible. It makes it easier for them to sign up new clients. It makes it easier for them to sign up customers, staff, investors. So they want you to go and advocate for them. So yeah, it works on. Right. Too many questions. Let me get on. All right. Next question is, am I good enough? How are we doing for time? All right, good. Am I good enough? So look, this is a lot of people kind of follow this advice. They go and have a conversation. They get their first board seat. They go, hey, I've got my first board seat. Fantastic. And then they're going to have their first board meeting and they go, oh, what have I done? Am I going to be good enough? Look, my view on this is I've sat in board meetings multiple times and I've thought, I am completely out of my depth. I don't know how to add value here. It's like they're speaking a different language. That's imposter syndrome. And everybody on this call is a leader. If you're a leader, by definition, you put your hand up and say, look, I'll take on responsibility for something I don't know how I'm going to deliver. So you're going to feel imposter syndrome to a certain extent. Imposter syndrome just means that you care. You care about the results. And because you care, the next time you go and do the reading. So when I feel like an imposter in a board meeting, I go and have a chat with the chair afterwards. And I say, look, I really didn't understand what was being talked about at point 2, point 3. Who do I talk to learn more? What reading should I do so that next month I can add value rather than sitting here feeling like an imposter? The worst board members are the ones that don't care enough. And so they sit there and they never feel like an imposter because they don't care. Showing that feeling like an imposter just shows that you care. All right. This is what I have learned over the years about what makes a good or a great board member. And I sat on many, many boards and I got very, very frustrated with some board members. And I couldn't always pin up why I was getting frustrated with them. Now I've worked with hundreds of Veblen members. I've interviewed thousands of people to join the Veblen program, rejected a lot of them because I knew we wouldn't be able to help them. And these are the 3 things that have stood out. So the first one is a willingness to learn and improve oneself. The second one is an ability to make decisions and explain them. And the third one is a desire to make an impact in the world. So let me just very quickly explain this because these are really important. At no point have I said what I'm looking for is certificates. What I'm looking for is a degree or a master's or 10 years business experience or any of those things. Everything I've shared here is attitudinal. And a really good way of thinking about this is what is the inverse of this? Because this is what I realized was causing me problems in past boards. So when you have somebody on the board that doesn't want to learn, so they think they know everything, they don't want to ask questions, they don't want to improve themselves, it becomes such a problem for the whole board. The fact that, by the way, the fact that you have given up 90 minutes of your time to come here and learn about this suggests that you've already ticked that first box. So congratulations on that. Now, the second one is an ability to make decisions and explain them. Now, this is really, really important. And it's probably the most important one, because if you've ever worked with a committee, if you've ever passed things up to a board and they haven't been able to make a decision, you know how much work has gone into it. And then everyone's just treading water, waiting for the board to make a decision. So oftentimes I would sit on boards and there would be one or two people that just panicked when it came to making decisions. And so like they would overthink it and they wouldn't be able to make a decision, and it would just end up causing so many problems. Or worse, you have those people that just say no, but they wouldn't explain why they were saying no. So you've got nothing to work with. And the third one is a desire to make an impact in the world. And so, what I mean by this is you have a vision of the world that's bigger than just yourself. And so, the inverse of that is if you have somebody on the board who is only looking to serve themselves. That's a horrible, horrible thing to have on the board. Anyone that's unmuted, could you mute yourself? That would be great. Let me just see what the chat says. MTS says, I'm certified ID by MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, a requirement in India. Is there any certification required for taking board positions outside India? Okay. So look, what I'm recommending to everyone is you start your journey as an advisory, you next move up to apprentice. In neither of those do you need any certifications, do you need any, or do you take on any legal risk? And that's important. When you get to bigger companies, so for example, when I've served on publicly listed companies, I still didn't need a certificate, but sometimes I'll have to go through a training for the particular market, like NASDAQ gave us a few hours training to make sure we didn't do insider trading or any of those kind of things. But look, the certificate is not what gets you the board seat. Those big companies, they have all of the lawyers and all of the advisors that they need. You still have to prove to them that you can solve a problem that they have. The fact that you've got certification just kind of makes it easier for them. But here's a way of thinking about it. If you had enough money, you could buy your way onto any board seat in the world, regardless of your certificates. Elon Musk has not qualified for any of these things. In fact, he's regularly haunted SEC rules. And yet, much every company or a lot of companies would love to have him on the board. So it's not about these qualifications. It's about, can you solve a problem? And these attitudinal things here are really the most important things. So now, look, I kind of beat up on certifications and qualifications. A lot of our members go and do them because they're genuinely interested in them, and it can be interesting, but just don't confuse it as the way to get a board seat. We got approached by a certification company in Brazil that had qualified or certified 1,800 people in 9 years. Not a single one of them had managed to get a board seat, and so they wanted to partner with us. But on your side, don't use certification as a form of procrastination. So I've seen this happen as well. Rather than go and have a conversation with a business owner and set up a board, people will procrastinate by going and getting yet another certificate, yet another course. So don't trick yourself into thinking that you're making progress just by getting more certificates. It's not what companies are looking for. Now, is it worth it? Just conscious of time. All right, so we'll speed through these, but basically, when you look in the world of publicly listed companies, and like I said, we're taking 8 companies public this year, the average or the entry level price that we pay for board members, non-exec board members, is $40,000. It's pretty universal, like £30,000 in the UK, 40,000 in the US. It might be a little bit higher, a little bit lower. In the private market, it can be free or it can be millions of dollars. So this is public market. This is publicly available information in the US, Michael is earning 1.4 million a year from his board seats. Joseph is earning 2.5 million a year from his board seats. Andrew is earning nearly 9 million a year from his board seats. Now, this is sitting on the boards of big companies. Bigger the market cap, the more you'll get compensated for them. However, like I said, the salary is the least interesting earning potential. All three of those individuals will be making millions because they've got access to deals, they earn equity in M&A transactions. There's so many different ways that you can make money once you're on the board. Getting on the board is basically getting you on the pitch. It's then up to you how you score. But don't get too hung up with salaries too early on in your career. Goalie is saying how to get on the ladder besides creating one. Look, create one. Or the other alternative is to get to know other people that are creating them. So fundamentally, like if you don't know people sitting on boards, the person that is connected to scores and scores of people that are sitting on boards is going to see board opportunities more. So start connecting with people that are sitting on boards. All right, let me explain. Just give me a thumbs up in the chat if all this has made sense so far, and you kind of understand where we're coming from. What I'm going to do is, yeah, good thumbs up. Okay, cool. This is one of the questions that often comes up is the time commitment. And look, this is a relatively easy one at the beginning. So if you're setting an advisory board position, you just manage expectations, especially if you're not being paid. You can say, look, I'm more than happy to give you 3 hours of my time this month or every month. Anything beyond that, this is my daily rate. And that's perfectly fair as long as you're managing those expectations up front. Now, when you get brought into boards of bigger companies, publicly listed companies, they really are paying you to solve a problem for them. And that means you might have months when they don't need any input from you, but they might have days when they really, really need you in the office helping out, and it can be very full on. But don't worry about that too much because at the beginning, you get to manage the expectations. Look, I touched on this, but this is really, really important. Are you someone who can make decisions? Boards need people who can make decisions and take leadership, even when they don't have all the answers. Now, I actually have a webinar. We can do a search online, which is all about the Veblen 3A decision-making framework, which can help you with this. If you know you're somebody that struggles with making decisions, then this is probably not the right choice for you right now. It doesn't mean you won't be able to make decisions later, but this is such a fundamental thing that if you feel like you struggle to make decisions, it's probably not the right career for you right now. It is a critical thing. All right. You guys have all given me lots of thumbs up, so thank you for that. Let's crack into the next piece. So what I've done so far is I've really kind of talked about the why and the how you get your first roles. But I want to kind of get into the details and nitty gritty. And so when I was I was the chair of a publicly listed company in the UK, and we had an apprentice board because we wanted some diversity on the board. So we had a clinically blind Olympian. We had some young people with a couple of people under 30s. We had some minorities, and it was fantastic. We learned so much from them. They learned from us. But at the end of every meeting, they would say to me, how do I get more learning? How do I get more knowledge? And all of the training programs out there are all focused on what the biggest companies in the world are doing. So there's good corporate governance for an S&P 500, which just isn't useful. And so I ended up setting up the Veblen Director Program for 3 key areas: to give people the knowledge that you actually need today to get a board seat with a small company, and the knowledge that you can actually use today to help that company grow, to plug into a network of people that are already sitting on board seats, because that just makes life so much easier. And then when you've got those 2 things, it outcomes, by definition, outcomes these opportunities. And so you get access to so many more opportunities. So that's why I set Veblen up 4.5 years ago. One of the things that I was really, really keen on figuring out was, and this is something I've always worked on as an entrepreneur, is trying to create high-performing environments. And what I mean by high-performing environments is a lot of us just rely on our personal motivation. So we might watch a webinar like this, get all motivation, go, yeah, I'm going to be a board member. I'm going to go and reach out to a few businesses. And then you go back to your inbox and there's a ton of work that you have to do and you kind of get distracted and you lose motivation. If you are surrounded by people that are high achievers, that are all going out, sitting on board seats, doing deals, that just becomes your norm. And so I know for myself, I can't rely on my motivation. I have to put myself around people that are performing at a higher level than me, and it just makes me raise my game. So it's the same in like in the gym or anything else. But that's how we've built the Veblen Direct program. It's full of really inspiring people that are all playing a very big game. Now, how do we guarantee a board seat within 30 days? So when I started this program, I didn't even know that I could guarantee people a board seat within a year. So basically what I said was, look, I will do my best to teach you how to get your own board seat. And if after a year you haven't got a board seat, I'll keep working with you until you do. What's happened over the last few years is we have developed such a reputation for training people to deliver real value in the boardroom that companies now come to us. In fact, more companies are coming to us than we've got Veblen members in order to put on those boards. And so this is how we can offer a board seat within 30 days. And we interview everybody that comes in. We limit it to 10 new members a month so we can do proper onboarding with them. Then we put them on a board, at least one board within their first 30 days, because we believe you learn much better by doing than by just the academic. And so this is, I mean, look, we wouldn't guarantee it if we didn't have more board seat opportunities available right now than we have to do that. Sandeep is saying, how feasible is it to serve on a cross-border company being virtually available rather than person? Look, almost, in fact, every board seat within Veblen is international. Every board meeting, I can't even remember the last time, it's probably like 6 or 7 years ago that I actually went to an in-person board meeting. Almost everything is done on Zoom these days. And like I mentioned, it's easier to get a board seat internationally. Let me just touch on that, by the way. It's easier to get a board seat internationally than it is locally. Why is that? Well, first of all, just by definition, there's more companies internationally than there are locally. So there's more opportunities. When you are talking to a company internationally, you're exotic. There's something about you that is different from everything that everyone else that's applying. And so it works very well. Now, also, there's lots of companies, say if you're in Dubai, where I am, there's lots of, well, less companies now, but a few months ago, there were lots of companies that wanted to come here. And if you have local knowledge, then you can help that company to grow. So if you're in India, for example, and companies want to come into India, you have local knowledge. So international companies are more likely to work with you. Now, the other thing, the weird thing is, once you're sitting on boards internationally, locally, companies are much more interested in you because you're more glamorous if you're sitting on boards internationally than if you haven't got international board experience. So that's why we do the international thing. So hopefully that answers your question, Sandy. All right, what we're looking for, and I've already touched on this, it's not your background, it's not your experience, your career today, it's your willingness to learn, it's your ability to make decisions, and it's your desire to contribute. And when we're interviewing you, that's the three things that we are looking for. Lots and lots of examples. You can go and find all of the testimonies online. Let me talk about the Veblen journey, because when members join, we have these 3 tiers. So the first tier is level 1, and our objective is to get you on 2 board seats as quickly as possible. Now, as I mentioned, what the companies are matters a lot less. They're going to be in industries you're not familiar with. But really, the reason for doing it is for you to get a chance to work with more experienced board members, other Veblen members, to share how you can add value, to figure out how you can add value, to update your profile and let the world know that you're now sitting on boards. Once you're on 2 boards, it unlocks learn to earn. And this is where you can focus on, okay, how do I monetize all of these board positions and opportunities that I'm now getting? At that point, we also really encourage you to chair your first board position. And that's a whole new learning journey as well, but it's super, super valuable and you'll learn a lot. And then level 3 is the more advanced stuff. It's for those people that really want to get into the bigger companies, want to work in the public markets, do investor relations, mergers and acquisitions, that sort of stuff. So those are the 3 tiers that we have in Veblen. I said I'd mention about Keith. So Keith reached out to me, said, "Am I too old for Veblen?" So often we get this: "Am I too old? Am I too young? Am I in the wrong country? Am I?" Forget all of that. It's all the attitudinal stuff. He joined us. He joined 3 companies in Europe very quickly. He negotiated with each of them earning potential if he helped introduce them to clients he thought he could help them do. And then he was writing about it. So he was updating his journey on LinkedIn. And an HR manager from an S&P 500 company reached out to him and said, "Would you be interested in joining our board here in the US?" Now, it wasn't the main board. It was a tier 2 board for a huge company. He went and interviewed with them. They offered him $168,000 a year to join, and he turned them down because he was having so much fun working with small European companies. He didn't want all of the stress that came with that. So all of that happened within 4 months of joining. So very, very quick. Now, if you are interested, if you want to have a chat with any of our team, you can click on the link I've just put in there. So that will open up a form that you can fill in. There's no commitment. This is just a 30-minute chat with one of our team. They will have a chat with you. They're very nice people. It may even be me. They just want to learn about what your journey is, and then they're going to make a decision based on whether they think you can add value to the community and whether they believe they can get you a board seat. If they don't believe they can get you a board seat, they won't offer you a position. Now, I mentioned that we've got a special deal for WisdomCircle members. So normally the program, it's 3 years of all of the knowledge, the connections, the opportunities. There's that 30-day money back guarantee. It's $9,650 US. I've done a special offer for Wisdom members. We are going to offer, if you book an interview today and you get made an offer after the interview, you can join for $5,999, which is nearly 50% off. And that's available to anyone that books an interview today if you made an offer. There is a payment option as well. It's a little bit, it's 10% more expensive, but if you want to split payments, you can split them over 3 months. So it's $2,199. As soon as you've paid the first installment, you get access to the program, you'll get your first board seat, you get all of the things. I'm going to go through all of the things that you get now. But if you think this is something that you might be interested in, just click that link, have it open in the background, and then you can fill it in later. But yeah, you can get started on your board journey for $2,199 today. We're also going to throw in a few perks and treats as well, just to help you on your journey. Because we really want Wisdom members to get their first board seats, be very, very successful, and then share the word. So we'd love to make this partnership work long time. Rizwan saying, "Hi, I'm from an IT background. Will I have scope as an independent director?" Absolutely. Look, lots and lots of companies right now are wrestling with the big AI question. So even if you're not an AI expert, if you come from an IT background, you can probably help them with a lot of those. Anne's saying, "Will we get the recording?" I'm not sure about that, Anne. You'll have to, I'm sure one of the team will let you know. They probably will send you the recording. What are we doing for time? 10 minutes. Okay, let me run through these a little bit quicker. So Yvonne is based in South Africa. This was an email that she sent and CC'd me. So this was to a friend of hers. And she said, "Further to my brief discussion with you, I've secured 2 advisory board positions and I'm interviewing for a third fully paid board member of a private equity fund. All 3 are international board positions." And you see down the bottom, this was her VDP experience, short 2 months. So within 2 months, she was being offered paid board positions because she had taken some unpaid positions already. So look, if you already know that this is definitely right for you, then just click on that link. Arn says his Zoom has stopped. So I can't share a copy of the presentation, but I think the team will send you, the team will send you a copy of this video so you can go through it in your own time. Right, let me go through what is in the program. So and I'm not going to, there's so much that I'm just going to skim through it very, very quickly. We want you to be a great board member. So we can teach you how to get on those board seats. We can get you those board seats. But once you're on, we really want you to add a ton of value. So everything that you need to know, and it's very, very practical, it's very applicable, it's not theoretical. And we're constantly updating this knowledge. So we've got now more than 300 members sitting. I think they've probably got 600 board seats between them, maybe more. If they come in up to a problem that we haven't got in our curriculum, they'll come in and they'll tell me, and then I'll go and find the expertise and we'll do another video with that. I'm not the expert on all of these things. I bring in experts from all around the world. You may know Neil Fahey, who's a world Olympic 18-time world champion, 3-time Olympic gold medalist. Daniel Priestley, who you may be familiar with, one of the top entrepreneurs out there. Vicky is one of the top ESG practitioners in the UK. Jeremy Harbour, whose yacht I'm currently sitting on, is my business partner, M&A expert. So lots and lots of that. We also have coaches. So our head coach is Paran Mehta, who is a senior executive at Google for 10 years, then helped Airbnb go public in Asia. He has a huge waiting list of executive coaching clients, but he gives his time. We have him in the Veblen Director Program, so you can have time with him to talk about your career. So all of that is available in there. The interview process itself, it's very friendly. You're not going to be asked to make a commitment there and then, but yeah, you can have that conversation. I already sort of touched on this, but yeah, Ralph was joined by Marissa, who's in Singapore, an entrepreneur. Hetal is in the insurance industry. They became board apprentices, and each one of them has gone on to become board directors of public companies since then. Graham Mulligan is one of our mentors, and he sits on 5 board seats, 3 of which are over $1 billion. His is the only content we can't record because he's Australian and he's very, very blunt and open. Like the stuff that he reveals is incredible. It's in my mind, it's worth the price alone just to get access to Graham. He's an incredible board member and very, very generous with his giving. So look, the program is 36 months. Once you're in it, you don't pay anything else. We think 36 months is long enough to get you to whatever your goals are. So if you want to be sitting in a big company, large cap company, we think you can get there in 3 years. So that's why we do it 3 years. Addy is asking, how many board placements have members actually secured? We're in 30 days money back stated in writing. So every single one of our members has got a board seat. In 4.5 years, there's only one person who then rejected it, left us. It was because they were an entrepreneur and their own business got into trouble. And after they had been with us for a year, sat on news boards, they then asked for a refund and we wouldn't give them one. And so they started writing nasty stuff about us online. But that's the only person that's ever had a problem with us. There's tons of, go and have a look on LinkedIn. You can see all of our members there talking about their board positions. And the money back guarantee is when you sign up, it's all in there. On YouTube, there's tons and tons of testimonials there. We've got 300 members, Jenny, at the moment. Olufemi, so I said all that about non-profits. Olufemi joined us because he wanted to join non-profits, and there was one particular non-profit he wanted to join. So he went through our content, figured out how to position himself, went and spoke to that non-profit, and they immediately offered him a board position. And he then updated his LinkedIn profile, and another non-profit saw his update and offered him a board position on their nonprofit as well. So within 2 weeks of joining, he'd basically got his 2 dream jobs on 2 nonprofits, and he's still going strong. So, but that was his choice, was he wanted to work in the nonprofit space. Like I say, nearly 50% off. You can get started today with 2,199 if you get made an offer. It's a full money back guarantee if you don't. So look, the knowledge is good. I haven't seen anyone else talking about this knowledge. Normally it's all focused at the biggest companies in the world, but to me, the value is the network. you are joining a community of 300 people, and those people want you to be successful, because the more successful you are on your board journey, the more valuable you become to their network. And so the forum is incredibly friendly. Everyone's helping each other out. Everyone's recommending each other for roles. We put you in an accountability group, which you'll meet with every single week. Their job is to hold you accountable to your 3-year goals. So even if you are feeling unmotivated and struggling, they will push you and guide you. If you're on a board and you're struggling with a knotty problem, they will help you with it. So really, really valuable. The wider Veblen community, you've also got access to. So you've got people that are a few months ahead of you or a few years ahead of you. Very, very general, very, very generous group. Because we interview them, we make sure that they're going to contribute to the network, and it works very, very well. We do speed networking events. There's software that introduces you to people that are working on projects like yours, and you're just going to be serving on lots of boards with these people. Matthias, who I touched on, managed to get 4 boards within 10 weeks. Now, I don't promise that would happen to you. You might not even want 4 boards. But yeah, he kind of hit the ground running. I think in his first day, he had connected with a Veblen member and Archita, and she said, "Oh, look, you would add massive value to this board that we're on." And so brought him in. So it can happen very, very quickly. With that, what are we saying? Okay, nothing in the chat for me. Okay. We also do Ask Me Anything sessions so Veblen has its own board. So every 6 months we rotate our board. It's made up of Veblen members, and those members are more senior members. They do a monthly Ask Me Anything session, so you can ask them any questions you have. I'm in the forum every day, answering questions. At the end of the 3 years, if you want to stay in the network, it's $150, but you can also become a Veblen ambassador. One of the things you do as an ambassador is you mentor new members, and in return, you get to stay in the community for free. So we've got lots of amazing mentors that will help you as well. Susie, I've already touched on, absolutely amazing. And if you look at our LinkedIn profile or YouTube, there's tons of content. She's just, not only is she had an amazing journey, she's helped so many other members as well with that. The opportunities, we've got opportunities coming in all of the time. And our community manager will basically try and match you up with, so the first couple of opportunities, like I said, it doesn't really matter what the company is. It doesn't matter what the industry is. We just want to get you sitting on a board with more experienced Veblen members, so you can figure out how best you can add value and you can build those connections. Then you can kind of get a bit more refined. We have a 30-day checklist. It doesn't need to take more than 20 to 30 minutes a day, and you will get incredible results. Now, I mentioned that I'm going to throw in a few extra bonuses. So oftentimes people join us and they have no presence at all. So like I said, they might have built a profile in the company, but they have nothing externally when you Google them. So we give you a $5,000 2-year PR plan. It involves, you can publish, we publish interviews with you. There's micro podcasts. There's weekly thought leadership pieces that you can answer questions and get published on the same website as people like Bill Gates, Richard Branson, Ariana Huffington. So Google is seeing you publishing content every single week alongside these other business thought leaders. So just build your own name SEO. That package is normally $5,000. We're giving it for free to WisdomCircle members that sign up. There's also the opportunities coming in all of the time. And the more board experience you get, we have unpaid opportunities. We also have paid opportunities. The paid opportunities tend to go to those people that have already served on a couple of boards. Ideally, you've chaired a board. And then those opportunities come in, but there's lots and lots of them. I did a screenshot a few days ago, a few weeks ago. You see some of the companies that come in. We also have another bonus, which is a capital raising program. So remember I talked about the fact that you you become a board member by solving a problem for companies. Now, a lot of companies are looking to raise capital, and very few companies know how to raise capital. And so there's another program that I built called Guild Members, which has got about 800 members. They're capital raising communities all over the world. It has all of the knowledge you need on how to raise capital, and that makes you super valuable. So imagine that, imagine what you've got no experience. So you're a soldier, you haven't got any business experience, but you're connected to 300 board members around the world. You're connected to 800 capital raising individuals around the world. Just those two things alone makes you valuable to companies. They would want you just for those things alone. Any insights and experience that you have, a network that you have on your own, is all just bonuses. So this is really about making you so valuable that companies can't say no to you. And the third one is we also have a networking program, so you can build your own profitable networking groups, which is all about attracting the right opportunities to you. That all gets thrown in. So that's more than $10,000 worth of packaging that we're throwing in for Wisdom Circle members that click on the link today. And done. Arnd is saying, I thought the selling was done at the beginning. That was just to let you know, and therefore, if you weren't interested, you didn't need to stay on. So I'm assuming that the people that are still here, and lots of people are still here, means that they are interested. Just to give you a bit more details, like I said, you don't need the Veblen Director Program to have a successful board career. This is just about fast tracking the process. So if you're interested in like how you can speed this whole process up, that's what Veblen is for. It's 36 months. You get all of the knowledge you need. You get an incredible network and accountability board. It's so inspiring to be a part of this network. It really is. Opportunities are coming in every day. Really, really exciting ones. You get monthly AMAs. We've got the ambassadors to support and mentor you. We've got live coaching. We've got the $5,000 publishing package, the Learn to Raise Capital package, and the Get Launch program. All get included. So all in there. The process is very simple. Click on the link, fill in the application, have a chat with one of our team. They will let you know there and then whether they think you'd be right for it. They won't make you an offer unless they believe they can get you a board seat. So don't worry about that. You join, you become a member, you get access to the forum. We'll introduce you to a lot of members. We'll put you in the accountability group. You'll get your first board offer within 30 days. And then you're up and running. This is one of our members, Mazen. He reached out to me. He said, look, I'm in Saudi Arabia. I don't think this will work for me. I convinced him it would, and this was it within 3 months. So you see down the bottom, it says, I've been offered another paid board of advisors seat today. It's now subject to final approval. He got that. So that was his fourth or third paid advisory board position within 3 months of joining the program. So again, happens very, very quickly. All right, I got sent in. I know we're sort of at the top of
Yeah,
the hour. Actually,
so
we're at the
Callum,
top
I
of
was
the hour,
actually
so
going to flag that we're at
knock
top
it.
of the hour.
Yeah, kill it there. So.
No, I mean, this was absolutely amazing. And thank you so much. And I think I want to just say a quick thank you to everybody before you jump off. Thank you so much for joining our session. I hope it was helpful. I think personally, I also took away a lot of learnings. So on behalf of Wisdom Circle, we want to say that if you're interested in more of these conversations where you get to see things differently, learn tools, learn skills, build that network, please feel free to join our group, our platform. And we're very happy to engage and be part of helping you find a better direction for this phase of your career. And Callum, thank you so much. I mean, your generosity in terms of offering the team a discount and also in terms of everything that you do to support people through their journey is phenomenal. So it's not just about the board placement, it's about equipping them with the skill sets, the intellect, the support, the coaching. And that is something that is very unique. So thank you so much for joining us. And to all of you, we wish you an amazing day. And please sign up to Wisdom Circle. Please sign up to Callum's program because both of them are a great way to help you be successful in this new phase of your career.
Definitely, and thanks for all the great questions and engagement. It makes it much more fun on my side. So yeah, well, great questions and great engagement. Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone from Wisdom Circle. Awesome.
Absolute pleasure. To everyone, have a good day further wherever you are around the world. And thank you again for joining us. Take care.